So Sean, here for Gotham's second season. I just want to ask by, first of all, asking what progression do we see in Alfred in this season from the first one?
In season 2?
In season 2, sorry, yeah.
In season 2, I mean, we were very proud of season 1, but things were, the cat was, went months of pigeons really, because I think we got to about episode 11 when they gave us 6 more shows, so the writers went into, it was much more standalone the first season, although we're very proud of it. I think the second season, we were much more sort of confident. We have a sort of more of a confident, not so much swagger, but gait now in season 2. We feel that our wonderful audience, legions of wonderful audience, have accepted our world and our interpretation, because everyone has in their mind's eye an image of what Gotham should be, and ours doesn't seem to disappoint in its operatic scale. So it's the episodes, there's larger story arcs. You get to spend more time with some of the characters that were in the first season as well, but they start to intertwine. So you start to see Riddler meeting, or the like prototype Riddler meeting Penguin, and me meeting Penguin, for example, or Fish Mooney, and things like that. You start to get all of these characters that are intertwining, and the world starts to breathe and expand and become more dangerous.
Mm-hmm. And how does that affect Alfred personally? I mean, is he aware of the dangers?
Alfred's totally aware. I mean, he's never really wrong. He's got sort of street smarts, absolutely. And which I think the thing is, in season 1, when he was stabbed, he questioned his own mortality and his actual import. He made this Bushido-like oath to Thomas Wayne prior to his assassination with Martha Wayne. And when he nearly died himself, I think that was a huge turning point for him, because he made a terrible mistake letting his past revisit him. And you saw what happened. I mean, you saw that Bruce could have very easily gone to the dark side. So he has taken much more responsibility, and like any teenager, he tries to create a language and a dialogue with the damaged young Master Bruce. And of course, he doesn't listen to Alfred at all, which is like any teenager, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Are there any other characters in this particular series that you have interactions with that we might not have seen beforehand? And what kind of relationship do you develop going into, like you said beforehand, that you didn't know you were going to have a second season when you were doing the first one? Do you know now full well that you're going to have a third season, and do you approach it differently?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, there's I think the great thing, the intriguing thing about our show is that everyone has good and bad in them, and it's been focusing massively on the villainous aspect. But so we needed some support with the sort of the Operation Good Guys approach, which I was so delighted to hear the news that Christopher Chalk would be joining us, who plays Lucius Fox. So he ramps it up, because as we know, Jim Gordon is a bit of a loose cannon at the moment. So we desperately need some support with the good element. So that was a huge plus for me, to know that there was going to be someone that I could rely on, and that was a great moment for me personally as an actor in episode 2 of season 2, that I was unleashed from the manor, and I was allowed to dazzle our American cousins with the sort of London vernacular spectacular, and threatened him with breakfast food like tapioca kipper, and called him a chipolata and a sole sausage, which confused everyone. And I have to say, I'm very pleased that the studios allowed me to do that now and add Alfredisms in to the show. So that was a very important point for me, was Bruce letting him in and letting him out and become more involved, for good or for bad.
Uh-huh. Are those Alfredisms, or are those you?
A lot of my friends, I have to say, from my past. Yeah, I mean, we try. I do slip the odd one in, and occasionally I just say "cut" like that. They draw the line sometimes, but we sort of slip a few in, which is quite great. You know, it's an honour, really.
Mm-hmm. Another great thing about the show, and I think it's consistent from the first one to the second series, is how cinematic it looks. It's created a Gotham which is different, but it still looks big and, you know, has that grandeur to it. Were you surprised by that when you were on set, how big they were going with the show?
Yeah, I was absolutely flabbergasted. I mean, I've worked with Danny Cannon before, so I know what he's sort of capable of, and he's been brought in so many times to sort of set shows up and do pilots for shows. But the pure sort of operatic scale of our show and the way that it's shot. I mean, both our lighting, our DPs were nominated for Emmys, which for the same show in 1 year, which was extraordinary, from costume design to the element, just from the casting element to the design, which has so much to do with Bruno, and also Danny's very keen eye, because Danny has been involved in Danny Cannon, our showrunner, has been involved in absolutely every sort of element of filmmaking. He literally knows everything. I mean, he's got an extraordinary eye. So, you know, preparing and once you go over the initial shock of playing sort of iconic roles, walking onto a set like that is, first of all, awe-inspiring, and then you become incredibly confident. You put your costume on and you are in Gotham. You know.
Was there any apprehension on your part taking on such an iconic role that we?
Well, I didn't know it was. We were given generic pieces to all of us. I think every single actor was given a generic piece. Mine was a spiky sort of EastEnder, walks into a pub and punches someone in the larynx. So I had no idea, but we'd heard in the ether that there was this show floating about that could be a sort of pre-Batman thing, and I didn't know. And they flew me down to LA, and I saw Bruno, who I hadn't worked with, but I was a huge fan of. Always wanted to work with him since Rome and everything like that. And I saw Danny Cannon, and I went, "What are you doing here?" And they said, "It's Gotham." I said, "But who's this?" And they said, "It's Alfred." And I went, "It's not Alfred." And then it was that was the really intriguing thing. It was the precursor to why would the richest man in the world hire a spiky EastEnder? And the reason is because he was his protectorate, his confidant, his butler. And everything, and only so much so that his most treasured, Thomas Wayne's most treasured person in his life was his son, which of course Alfred inherits. He never asked to be a father, but so it was an extraordinary. That's been the extraordinary thing, is to be allowed to not reimagine but redefine these characters, to actually give them subtextual past and meat, and being allowed to use physicality, because I think, you know, that's something that people hadn't seen before, and I think that Bruno allowing me to show that I could fight and things like that became sort of an integral part of it. I think the audience really enjoyed that, because it's actually planting the seed of, you know, Batman didn't become Batman overnight. Alfred was his enabler. Mm-hmm. You know?
And I'm assuming we're going to see much more of that in season 3. How do you think that's going to progress? And have you got in your own mind how you would want it to progress, that relationship between Alfred and Bruce?
I just really hope that actually Master Bruce listens to me occasionally. That's what I just really hope. I have a teenage son called Alfred, and I think the thing is you have to find a dialogue, a way of talking to a young man. And they do, and it sort of implies they have a very dysfunctional relationship, but I mean, that implies dysfunction doesn't work, but it seems to work between them. They're both extremely damaged, and I think that Alfred learns as much from the boy as the boy learns from him. And just by his cosseted nature, just the way he wears his clothes, the fact, you know, that everything is so sort of tight with Alfred. If that wasn't there and the boy wasn't there, he would literally explode. Mm-hmm. He would go to the dark side himself. He had been to the dark side. You know, there was an episode played by the brilliant David O'Hara, when Reggie came to see him, when he actually talks about what Alfred was capable of and what he used to do, and he was not a nice person.
Mm-hmm. And finally, can I just ask, the 22 episodes per season, does that give you the room to explore those themes that we might not get to see in one-offs and movies and so on?
Very much so. I mean, this is a very good question. I think the thing is, like, often with films, 90 minutes or 100 minutes or whatever, you know, we've been given the luxury of 44 hours of developing subtextual elements to our characters and letting our characters sort of breathe and letting the audience in and learn about these people, and including ourselves. And the very interesting thing about our genius showrunners of John Stevens, Danny Cannon, Bruno Heller, is that I said, can we have more about the SAS part? Can we have more about his history? And they said, no, because that's not what our show's about. You find more about going forward about what they were capable of in the past. And I think that's a very sort of interesting approach that they have. So, yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much. That was a pleasure. Cheers, man.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey You Guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yeah.
Nice.
Hey You Guys!